Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget Friday, or Saturday. I keep thinking today is Friday. Idaho's largest garage sale at Expo Idaho. Some great deals, great fun. Looking forward to seeing everybody there, as well as the Boise Music Festival coming up next month. A lot going on here in the Treasure Valley. More details, KIDOTalkRadio.com, or you can get the KIDO Talk Radio app. It's free, and we don't spam you all the time, so you only get news and relevant information to your world. And by the way, Miller's Mission, we'll have more on that coming up, how you can help the Boise Rescue Mission, where we ask you to join our Penny Patrol. And certainly, we have enough spare change. If you see those firefighters, help them fill the booth this weekend, won't you? Joining us now, our great friend, the Money Lady. We'll just call her Money, Money, Money. Krista Huff joining us. Krista, good to have you with us.
Hi, Kevin. How are you today?
I don't know. What about the Chinese and the markets and the tariff wars? You're the voice of reason.
Thank you. And I have something to tell you that nobody else tells you. So you know how the trade wars are like constantly in the news, right? Well, what they don't tell you is that every single day of decades gone by, trade negotiations are in the works for all kinds of trade agreements, fixing them, planning them, et cetera. And the biggest trade agreement of all time, which was the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, that was in negotiation during the entire Obama administration, and then it failed. But nobody listened to that every single day of his administration on the news, right? So then you got to wonder, okay, why did the big one, why was it never mentioned? And then here we have just this like a trade agreement with one country that's constantly in our face, making it sound like the president is a bumbling idiot, right? So again, it's that whole political agenda in the media. So go ahead and ask me anything else you want to ask me, but I think the media is just using it as an excuse to, make the administration sound like they don't know what they're doing.
Well, it seems like the media is cheering for the economy to tank.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And so there was some news that in New Jersey, income tax revenue was shockingly higher than they expected this April when everybody filed their income taxes, except they didn't use the words income taxes because that would make it seem like the Republican administration's tax plan last year actually worked. So instead, they just used the word revenue. Well, the average American does not understand that the word revenue refers to income tax money coming into the state budget. I mean, you and I understand that because we pay really close attention to politics. But, our neighbors, and they see the word revenue, and then they're like, okay, what's happening in Little League today? Like, they don't care. So basically, the president's tax changes, where we're paying lower income tax rate, and so are businesses, they're actually working, and tax revenue came in much higher than expected, not only in New Jersey, a Democrat state, but California, a Democrat state, and Connecticut and Illinois, Democrat states. So I'm finding the whole thing very amusing.
It is. Let's take a look at the price of oil and the price of gasoline and the shenanigans, once again, of the Iranians and what it all means for our bottom line.
Well, oil prices went up, I think more than 50% since December, which is crazy. And then more recently, they pulled back. And I don't follow them day to day. I know that energy companies and energy stocks are very undervalued right now. Many of them are projected to have profits increase in the 30 to 60% area next year, which is just crazy. That would be like if you or I got a 30 or 60% increase in our salaries. It's almost unheard of. And yet many, many of the high quality energy companies have profits like that pending in 2020. So as an investor, if you like to buy bargains and you have a little bit of patience, I would buy energy stocks or like energy mutual funds, energy ETFs. So from that point of view, you can make money. From the point of view of people who are buying gasoline, it's not so good because the gasoline prices are going up, right? So there's always this give and take on news. It benefits some people, it harms other people.
What do you going back to this whole thing on China, and where do we go? I mean, obviously, the president's the only administration who has decided to take on the Chinese. People say,
Right.
your friends in the media are crying that this is the end of the world as we know it. They didn't care about the farmers, but all of a sudden they care about the farmers. Can you give us your insight from your perspective as someone who knows the money, the whole Chinese-American relationship?
The Chinese have been famous for not following through with any kind of international trade type agreements that they have signed in the past, not only with the U.S., but lots of other countries. And because of that, the U.S. is harmed in various ways. For example, it's classic that if companies wanted to do business in China, they had to reveal a whole bunch of their secrets, and China would steal the intellectual property and then use it for their benefit. Now, when other countries bring businesses to the U.S., we don't ask for all their trade secrets. We don't say, show us all your patents, hand them over, et cetera. So it's ridiculous that China has demanded that. And then the U.S. companies were like, well, we need this business, so we're going to share our information. So that's one of the big sticking points in the current U.S.-China potential new trade agreement. The U.S. wants to get China to stop stealing intellectual property. It is a very, very big deal, but they don't describe that on the news because it's complicated. Again, the people who are, they're checking the weather, they're checking the baseball scores, they don't want to hear about intellectual property theft. And frankly, the newscasters couldn't probably explain it if you begged them to. So that's why people have this impression that the trade war is about somebody's bad personality. No, it's about real business problems that the U.S. has been victimized by for decades because none of our previous presidents were willing to address the problems. Now we have a bold and blustering and abrasive president who says the buck stops here. You're not going to take advantage of the U.S. anymore. That's a great stance. But if they only portray it from his, personality point of view, it sounds like a bad stance, right? But if you portray it from the point of view of let's protect American businesses from theft, then he becomes a hero, right? So all in all, the president doesn't negotiate these things. He has an entire staff, and the president in China doesn't negotiate them either. He has a whole staff. So these staffs are working in the background, every single day for months on end. And hopefully they will come to some kind of amenable agreement that benefits both countries.
It's fascinating, and I have, like many Americans, looked at China. And China, I think, is the second largest trading partner, believe it or not, to the state of Idaho, Krista. And years ago, I think it's called The China Question. It was this documentary on CNBC where he had this, semi-young guy in his 30s. He worked at HBO, and he went over the challenge of trying to buy American, and he profiled his mother, and she would go everywhere, and she was trying to buy Americans. Then he went over to China, and the fascinating thing is, we tend to think that everything is equal, but the kids there don't learn about Tiananmen Square. As you just detailed, Boeing, to do business in China, they reverse engineer everything. So when the contract is up, Boeing's out, and they've given away the store to the Chinese, and you have to have a partner dictated by the Chinese government that will be your minder there. It's totally a wacky way of doing business.
Americans are so immersed in the freedom that they were born into that most of them cannot comprehend what it's like in these other countries that have socialism, communism, dictators. You can't say anything that isn't politically correct in China without fearing being thrown in jail. You can't express, for example, a belief in Christianity publicly without fearing being thrown in jail. Every single Chinese person is followed by cameras. There are, millions of cameras all over the country, and they're keeping track of everything that people do, everything they say. And if you step outside the prescribed behaviors, you can't rent apartments, you can't get jobs. It is a scary place to live. And, you and I occasionally, I'm sure, meet people who came over from China, and they are happy to describe all this to you because they can't believe that Americans are leaning towards socialism, let alone favoring China in a trade war. They came here for a reason. The man that I'm very involved with came from a third world country without plumbing and electricity. And he thanks his lucky stars every day that he lives in America, and he can't believe that people are planning to vote for all these folks who are promoting socialism.
Well, he should thank his lucky stars he's got you.
Thank you. Well, he's a doll, so we're happy.
Well, and by the way, for people listening, and Krista, if you haven't seen this, it's available on Amazon. It's taken me years to find it, but I think it's the magic of having you on here on KIDO Talk Radio. It's called The China Question.
Okay.
It is remarkable, and you can buy it on Amazon. It's amazing. Finally, we take a look at infrastructure. Well, infrastructure as it relates to the debt and the deficit. We've got a time bomb going on here. Are we going to do anything about it? And if we don't, will that eventually impact us detrimentally?
Infrastructure like our roads and bridges and such?
Well, infrastructure, roads, bridges, and how that, adding $2 trillion to the debt and the deficit.
The debt, the deficit, it's a huge problem. I'm not an expert in that area, but obviously the more debt we have, the more of a problem it is. The curious thing about infrastructure is now that California, Illinois, Connecticut, and New Jersey have all this money coming that they weren't expecting, maybe they can start fixing their own roads and bridges. As opposed to giving it to illegal immigrants.
Now you're getting into our world of politics. Krista Huff, if people want to get a hold of you or if they want to learn all your secrets, what can they do?
Okay, so I write Cabot Undervalued Stocks Advisor, and I think there's like a $1 offer for my radio listeners. So if you go to cabotwealth.com/Krista, and no matter how you spell it, they came up with like several different web links, so you can spell it wrong and you'll still find it. cabotwealth.com/Krista, and I think there's a $1 offer for the first month with my newsletter, so people can start reading it and see if it makes any sense to them. And I advise people on mostly undervalued growth stocks, and it's not a heavily trading-oriented portfolio. I think the average turnover is the average holding period is about 10 months.
We appreciate you. Thank you, ma'am. Good to have you back.
Thanks. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
All right, Krista Huff joining us with analysis, commentary, and just a little dash of spice. Max joins us from Garden City on KIDO Talk Radio.
Well, what a marvelous introduction. I wanted to comment on something about China called rebranding, something that you guys didn't discuss. Imagine this, Ford Motors goes to China. They set up a factory plant, and they give up a lot of their technology in what China euphemistically calls, if you're ready for this, the Intelligence Trade Agreement. Ford led the world in automatic parking technology and what they call follow headlights, technique used all over now. China took that technology, renamed it, and sold it to the Japanese and the Germans. They then began putting this technology in their cars, and they ramped up and did it faster than Ford. So you had self-parking Mercedes-Benz, self-parking Toyota, 2 to 3 years before Ford came out with it. And this is just a small example of how China makes a lot of money by rebranding a technology that they've stolen and then selling it to countries that don't really realize that it was stolen from General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, whomever.
Oh, they're thieves. Hey, how much do they want to get their hands on Micron?
They want Micron very badly. Micron has been named by name, mind you, in the Ministry of Trade. They understand Micron has something now called cold press technology. It's very secret. It's a special way that they can make faster chips, smaller chips, cheaper. When they open their assembly facility in Taiwan, there will be no exposure to the Taiwanese government of their technology. But if they ever tried to open in China, they'd have to hand it over, and China would rebrand it, and they make a fortune rebranding and selling.
How secure is Taiwan?
Taiwan is incredibly secure. They understand, if you've ever been to Taiwan, having been in China 15 years, I went into Taiwan a few times, and I would say, well, how does it feel being Taiwan Chinese? And the first words out of their mouth are, excuse me, I'm a Taiwaner. They identify more with being Taiwaner than Chinese because of the specter of this big looming monster right across the straits. Militarily, they're secure as long as the United States stands as a partner. If China wanted to invade Taiwan, they should have done it under the Obama administration. Now we've got a hawk. We got a president who wouldn't put up with that garbage for 5 seconds. So China is just looking and waiting for a Democrat to get into office.
Well, they're looking and waiting here in Idaho, apparently.
Well, you know, it's interesting. By the way, that young lady before, very impressed with her knowledge. Her book would probably dovetail very well with my 2 books, Eyes on China and Paper Dragon.
Available at Amazon.com.
And better bookstores everywhere.
Roger.
No, I'm just, I was looking at the rebranding. It's the same thing I noticed. We recently had this scandal where some people were bribing their children's way into universities. There's an entire industry in China, at least 20 years old that I can recall, called Meiren, where you buy your child's way into. I know a couple people right now, top of my head, who bought their children into Harvard University.
Well,
without a test, they bought them in.
Harvard ain't cheap. Max, thank you for the call. Coming up next, the China question and more of your thoughts concerning heartbeat legislation, the move in Idaho to protect life, or are we all making a big mistake? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling right along, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436. A couple new movies out on Netflix and on Amazon. I think Amazon, you have to pay for it. It's like $3.99 to rent or $2.99. It's called The China Question. Ray and I, you remember we had Brooke Silvas Braga on many years ago, and it's taken me years to find it. Also, The China Hustle. And the reason why it's important is, we're hearing a lot about these trade wars and how China is the victim and President Trump is evil. Well, that's not the case. When you do business with the Chinese, and by the way, the Chinese can come in and buy this company and just to shut this thing down, just to shut this program down because they have so much influence. Now you're thinking, oh, that doesn't really impact us in Idaho. If you're new to the program or like me, forget, you remember several years ago where we discovered that the state of Idaho has offices in China in a couple of places. And it's the second or third largest trading partner in this, Idaho's second largest trading partner is the Chinese. And you've had the Chinese delegation over here. We've disclosed that they were trying to start a foreign trade zone. They were having a secret meeting downtown. And of course, they used the same thing, xenophobic, racist, to define people here on this program. Remember our friend Stephen Mosher, who we have on all the time, the bully of Asia, Michael Stumo. So for years, we've covered this. And when people say, and you have the Confucius Institute, you have universities, colleges within the Treasure Valley that partner with the Chinese. And every Chinese citizen, their first duty is to observe and find out what's going on and report back in. You can do the research. They're very efficient. And thank God that we have Donald Trump in. I'm going to share with you a trailer here, and this is almost 10 years old, from the China question when we're talking about how important trade is. And you're not going to hear this with the media that goes, oh, those right-wing kooks. Well, that doesn't mean that we're wrong. And you know what the devious little libs do when they can't debate us factually. And look, thanks to you, I've learned, call people names doesn't work. Devious little libs, that's just our way of getting through the day. First, traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio time is 8:28. Good morning, Dave. Thank you, Larry. Coming up next, doing the right thing when it matters. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. A few things going on this weekend. Idaho's largest garage sale will be at Expo Idaho. I'll be there in the morning. Hope you can stop by and say hey. Of course, make sure you catch Dave Petzo and The Garden Show and Treasure Valley Talk all on Saturdays. Can't wait to be at the garage sale. It's going to be a wonderful time. It's the right way to kick off the week for us. If you're not familiar, coming up on Monday, we'll be living once again at the Garrity Walmart in Nampa. That's right, our home away from home. Want to thank Camping World Boise for their help, giving us a wonderful place to live. And the reason why we do this is to just emphasize the need to help others in the Treasure Valley. I was talking to a friend of ours. He owns this apparel company, patriotic American company. By the way, when you hear the name, you're going to know American Arsenal. And these guys are great. In fact, we have some gear that I'll be wearing, the penny gear, right? What type of man wears penny gear? Well, I'll be wearing that next week. American Arsenal, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and on the web. They do an outstanding job. And do want to thank Justin and the crew there for our shirts. We're collecting pennies, coins, and everything else, just like the firefighters this weekend. They're collecting folks for the money for the MDA. We hope you can help them. And if you have some extra spare change, dollars, cents, sunscreen, water, clothes, bring them by the Nampa Walmart. Garrity and Franklin will be there from Monday till Saturday night at 6 o'clock. We'll have our friend Larry Gebert with us, Dave Petzo, and hopefully members of the community, whether it's Nampa, Meridian, Boise, wherever. We're going to chase Mayor Kling, see if we can get her, maybe some Canyon County commissioners. Hopefully our friend David Ferdinand will join us as well, talk a little God and country. Joining us now, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio from Capitol Hill. That's right, the Capitol Hill, exclusively on KIDO Talk Radio here in the Treasure Valley, 107.5 FM, 5 a.m. Good morning.
Hey, don't you guys have a Capitol Hill?
We have like a Capitol mound, maybe.
Okay, well, I'll take that. I need to come out to Idaho. I'm going to Washington State this summer, but it would be a long drive.
It would be. We'll have to work on that, but hopefully I'll be seeing you in September. So,
great.
Yes, I'm going to work on my diplomatic immunity so we don't have any incidents.
That would be great.
Rachel Sutherland joining us, Fox News Radio. It's something that happens all the time, and we thought we had this no-call list. Now, all of a sudden, I hate this when people say, well, give me your phone number, and then I get calls from all over the place. Robocalls are back.
You can't even buy a shirt without giving a phone number. You have to be like really militant about it and say, no. I mean, why are you asking my phone number? I have cash here.
Yeah.
Yes, robocalls may soon be a thing of the past, which is great because I have this Chinese lady calling me. She's been doing it for, I don't even know. I can't understand a word she's saying. So, look, what the FCC is proposing is that cell phone companies, telecom companies would be able to opt out customers from these robocalls, and you wouldn't even have to ask for it. You would be just opted out, okay, under the new service. You would have to call your phone company and say, hey, I really like those robocalls. I want to be opted in to getting them. And so that's how it would work. It's just a proposal at this point.
Well, I don't know what the politicians would do because, you get the robocalls during the elections, and you've covered quite a few. What would they do without the robocalls?
Right. And in a way, I kind of, I can record a robocall from a politician. I might want that. That is a very good question. The polling companies, the politicians, they may not like this. I haven't heard any direct pushback from them yet. But look, they're going to have to evolve, just as they have been. A lot of politicians are using like Instagram. I mean, you look at Pete Buttigieg and his teeth cleaning and hair, ear, whatever he was doing yesterday, and they're using Snapchat, and they're doing things in a very different way. But yeah, polling companies might have something to say about this.
Look, Buttigieg has nothing on Joe Biden, because when I think of Joe Biden, I'm thinking of hip, I'm thinking of social, I'm thinking of Instagram. I mean, I'm sure Joe Biden has a lot of people on Snapchat, and I can only imagine the filters he's using.
Well, I don't know if Joe Biden's on Snapchat, but when I went out to Pittsburgh, I will say there are no ugly people in his campaign. Not that I saw. They were all like dressed to the nines and sharp and good looking.
Well, Biden can pick them. Okay, switching gears quickly. Another Democrat enters the race. Mayor de Blasio, who would have thought?
Right. I know. I mean, I think he's like number 23 now. And I was seeing, obviously, New Yorkers themselves aren't huge fans of de Blasio. My main question is, Ken, is what compels a person after you've already got, almost two dozen or a dozen in, to think that they have what it takes to rise to the heap? I mean, maybe they will. But of course, Mayor Pete Buttigieg has soared in ways that people had not expected, whereas you have Beto O'Rourke sinking, and people were thinking that he was the one, like almost like a John Kennedy. So it is very early in the game, but it's a head-scratcher. De Blasio it may not even win his home state, so it's just fascinating to see these people jumping in.
Well, many people believe it's just a reckless audition to join you on the Big Fox or some of these other networks to be an analyst. It's their audition tape, really.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but that's awfully expensive, an expensive audition reel, because you've got to put both feet in, you've got to raise money, you've got to hire staff. You look at some of these campaigns, and they seem to be smaller than others. You look at Joe Biden's campaign, and he's running a general election campaign. He has got even staff for Dr. Jill Biden. He is staffed to the gills. And others, maybe not so lucky to raise as much money as he did, or Bernie Sanders raising so much money in the first 24 hours. Eventually, though, you're going to separate the wheat from the dross, and you're going to see people beginning to drop out. I think that'll happen after the first debate, though.
Looking forward to that one. Rachel, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Rachel Sutherland. Coming up, I do want to, if we did get a chance before Glenn, I want to share this trailer from the China question. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the crazy, wacky, zany libs are at it again. Earlier in the program, we spoke with the Reverend Patrick Mahoney. We spoke with our great from Stanton Healthcare. We spoke from David Ripley, Idaho Chooses Life, about this issue going on across the country, where you have the state of Alabama deciding to go forward and as disclosed, they want it to go to the Supreme Court. You have heartbeat legislation passing in Georgia, in Missouri, and I believe in Utah recently, and the networks are going crazy. So for entertainment purposes only, there is no reporting anymore. And remember the coverage, there was no coverage of the governor of Virginia wanting to have, allowing people to kill their children after they were born. The mayor or the governor of New York saying the exact same thing. All these things going on, and you've had people that have been marginalized, vilified in the life movement for years saying enough is enough, bring it on. Here is the crazy, wacky, zany lib reaction. We'll get yours in a minute.
News 46 years after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled abortion a constitutional right, the state of Alabama has just openly defied that landmark decision. Moments ago, Governor Kay Ivey signed into law a bill that provides harsh prison terms for those found guilty of performing abortions and sets the stage for a new and potentially decisive court battle over one of this country's most emotionally charged issues.
Alabama Governor Kay Ivey ignored the protests and took her pen to paper late this evening, signing this bill into law that effectively outlaws abortion statewide. Dr. Yashika Robinson works at one of the state's 3 remaining clinics, and she's frightened.
Women will have limited options when it comes to how they handle pregnancies. Basically, their only option is going to be to continue a pregnancy.
Mia Raven works full-time at a clinic less than a mile from Alabama's capital. Last year, doctors here performed more than 1,500 abortions. It's the only provider between Tampa, Florida, and Jackson, Mississippi.
We are always here for our patients, and we will continue to be here for our patients.
Even if it means going to jail?
I don't think we'll get to that point, actually.
And there we have it from our friends at Newsbusters. Now, on the other hand, the government's saying that the birth rate in America is at a 32-year low. That's right. The number of births have declined each year, dropping 2% last year, with just over 3.5 million babies born, except for a slight baby bump for women in their late 30s and early 40s. Birth rates among all demographics are down. Officials first thought it was just a slumping economy, but they were perplexed when they didn't see the rebound with better times. Gee, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is when we're talking about the birth rate at a 32-year low? Now, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, thanks to David Ripley giving us an insight. He said, people say, well, why aren't we doing this here? Well, we have the Ninth Circuit to deal with, and the Ninth Circuit would do their very best to go after us, to set the precedent, right? And instead of having a logical, rational discussion, what do the crazy, wacky, zany libs do? They attack men. They attack women. They attack everyone on the pro-life movement. If you've ever been to a pro-life rally or to Idaho Chooses Life or to Stanton or anything else, these people are the salt of the earth. Let's take a listen.
Of men who did this.
In Alabama?
There it is.
Yeah.
What do they have in common?
Well, I think weren't there
all
4
men,
women?
all white
there
guys.
Were 4 women on there?
Not here.
They are, all white
Yeah.
guys. Maybe we should make it a law that they should all be required to get a vasectomy. That group in particular.
So, again, identity politics, vilifying people because they're white men. Okay, you're saying, that's a joke, Kevin Miller. No big deal. No big deal. Okay. Insert some other race, some other ethnicity. Insert identity politics. Right? Now, Alyssa Milano, she's an actress. She's mad. You remember her, the sweet little lovable from Who's the Boss? Well, she's got a way. And by the way, she's having a sex strike and urging women to use their bodies to manipulate men, not to support the heartbeat legislation bills. Let's take a listen.
Are largely theoretical. They're moving their way through, as we saw in Georgia. Many would start to take effect in 2020, which is, of course, an election year. And you have a lot of women who are pro-life and in favor of these bills. So it's not like all women are on the same page about this.
Well, I don't think there's a human on the planet that is not pro-life. Nobody wants to get an abortion. Nobody. We are all pro-life. But there are circumstances that we cannot avoid. There's the mother's health. There's just not being ready, and what that means financially and for someone's destiny. This is an economic issue.
Hear what she said, that everybody's pro-life, but it's an economic issue. Well, if you're pro-life, you're pro-life, right? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And because of the shenanigans of Planned Parenthood, the ACLU, the governor of Virginia, the governor of New York, you are either in this camp.
Life is a gift of our Creator, and we must do everything that we can.
Or this one.
We have already seen panic from people who are unsure of whether or not they're going to be able to get the abortions that they have scheduled this week.
By the way, this law doesn't take effect for 7 months. There will be cases going up to the Supreme Court on this. Can we end the hyperbole? Can we just call them out? I don't think that anybody's scared. We're not criminalizing people. We're protecting life.
I really believe this legislation will get done because I believe it is the will of the people, and the people's voices will be heard.
Governor Mike Parson of Missouri passing the latest heartbeat legislation. Earl in Meridian with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Earl.
Good morning, Kevin. Bless you, bless your staff. Great show. I am in agreement with the law they passed. I would like to, in addition to that, though, see a return to the traditional American value of a man being responsible for what he does in that area, and that there should be still that stigma of you did this, therefore you're responsible as well, and you have to step up and be a man and take care of that child. We don't have that anymore. We see a lot of men run away from their responsibility. And yes, there are laws that have been passed that are there to enforce child support. But when you're a single, unwed mother, trying to get those laws enforced can be quite expensive just to get the money that you need. And I would like to see those federal dollars that have been going into places like Planned Parenthood, et cetera, and get those rerouted into child support enforcement so that those males, as well as females, both are responsible. But I'm saying right now, with this law passage, we're holding a female 100% accountable, and the laws are there to hold males accountable. They're not as enforced as well, quite possibly with the passage of this bill. Well, that's my thought.
Well, here's the other one. The president has tried to do this, and who knows what the Republicans are going to do. Do we really need to fund Planned Parenthood?
Exactly. It would be, well, we
with federal dollars. With federal dollars.
Even the local Planned Parenthood, I've heard they do not offer the amenities that they profess to have, such as breast cancer screening, pelvic exams, things of this nature. That most of it is, and I could be wrong. Have somebody from Planned Parenthood call in and say they have all these things available. I don't know if they're going to call and let you know that, but do they have mammograms on site? Are they able to take care of a woman's full reproductive health needs, or is it just about, because that's what they claim, it's Planned Parenthood. That means you may decide to be a parent. So are they offering the support and counseling that way as well? I'd like to hear from them on that.
Earl, God bless. Thank you for the call.
God bless you. Bless your staff. You guys have just been knocking them out of the park. Great show. Kevin, please keep up the phenomenal work. We need you. So thank you.
Well, we need you listening, so it's a two-way street.
Yes, sir. We'll continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. It really comes down to this, though, when you hear about what's been going on across the country. We've been talking about it for quite some time. You are either in two camps. You are in this camp right here.
Life is a gift of our Creator, and we must do everything that we can.
Or this one.
We have already seen panic from people who are unsure of whether or not they're going to be able to get the abortions that they have scheduled this week.
Your thoughts next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Violet in Nampa with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Violet.
Hi. I just wanted to say I heard something just a few minutes ago that anybody who really cares about women and women's health will oppose abortion, not support it. Dr. Jane Orient, she's with the AAPS group of conservative doctors out of Phoenix. She had a guest opinion in one of the local papers a few years ago, and this is really controversial. The pro-abortion people don't like to hear this, but she was talking about how abortion really jacks the risk of breast cancer for women when you artificially stop all the hormones that are in play in a woman's body. It's much different than a miscarriage. And I found an article on the Internet by the APPS lawyer, Andy Schlafly. I think he's Phyllis Schlafly's son. And he had a lot of information about it. He got out. If you care about women's health, you'll oppose abortion.
Violet, we appreciate the phone call. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave. And before we get to Glenn, the sweet prince of the Treasure Valley, soon to be the new mayor of New Meadows, Idaho, joins us now. KIDO Talk Radio, Tea Party Bob.
I certainly hope I'll never be the mayor of New Meadows, Idaho. But I certainly think it's about time that they reverse this Roe versus Wade after they've killed 60 million babies. You know, the Dems, they complain about military actions and about sending our military into harm's way when they sit by and they watch literally millions of babies being killed every year. It has to come to an end, and it has to come to an end soon. These politicians, and I even look at the local ones here. I go down to the pro-life rally every year, and I have to tell you, I've only seen 2 or 3 politicians, legislators from Boise that are in our legislature at that rally. And I think that was a tremendous disappointment to me. I would have thought in a state like this, we would have seen a lot more of them attending that rally. You know, you can't just say you're for something. You have to actually be out there doing something for it. And for all of these guys who say they are against abortion, how about showing a little bit of real support by coming out to these rallies and being part of what's going on?
God bless, Tea Party Bob.
Good day.
Good day.